That's a tough presentation to follow, I must say, but I will do my best. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me, and thank you to Reichman University and ICT for inviting me to speak, as well as the other Australian delegation. I also want to take the moment to say thank you for the last couple of days and for the university and the victims of terrorism and their families for providing the space to talk about that. It's a very important subject, it's very powerful, and for me personally is the reason why I continue to be in counter-terrorism. As the Assistant Commissioner for Counter-Terrorism and Special Investigations in the Australian Federal Police, I lead all of our joint counter-terrorism teams across Australia, as well as our efforts to counter foreign interference and espionage. For context, the joint counter-terrorism teams exist in all states and territories in Australia and consist of the Australian Federal Police as the federal policing agency, our local or state police, as well as our intelligence service, ASIO. Where terrorism nexus is identified, the joint counter-terrorism teams will act to disrupt and prosecute any individuals that pose a risk to the community. In addition to this and the current situation, we've added a third line of work, which is establishing national security investigation teams, which focus on national hate crimes. Today, I'll give you a high-level overview of what we've seen in Australia over the last 12 months, in particular around the escalation of anti-Semitic crimes and our policing response. If this works.
Today I can also announce that we have established AFP Special Operation Avalite for anti-Semitism. This is in response to the attack last Friday morning that is now the third arson attack.
The Adass Israel Synagogue was deliberately set alight on December 6, 2024, and at a time when Jewish Australians and those of the Jewish faith were feeling extremely vulnerable. It is important to acknowledge that this was not just an arson on a synagogue. The damage to the building and the religious materials were obvious, but the effect of this crime rippled through the community, which continues to be targeted by bigots and criminals.
This arson was an anti-Semitic crime. To set alight a synagogue is to strike at the heart of the Jewish community. But if the purpose of this arson was to weaken the resolve of the Jewish community, my observation is it hasn't worked.
We will not let this go unpunished in Australia, and that's why we have responded with meticulous energy and relentless determination.
Our world-class agencies will provide all the support necessary to find the perpetrators and ensure they face the full force of the law.
As the video showed, the level of anti-Semitic crime in Australia was the lead item not only in the media but also the politicians. But of course it was also front of mind of the Australian Jewish community, who were scared and felt targeted. It was not a situation we have seen before. As I'll explain, we have seen the alleged involvement of anti-Semites, and Australia has not been immune from the escalation of anti-Semitism since 7 October 2023. But we've also seen criminals for hire doing the bidding of others, as well as the assessed involvement of the State of Iran.
Today I can also announce
the escalation. Since October 2024, Australia has seen an increase in violent anti-Semitic events across Victoria and New South Wales, where an estimated 85% of the Australian Jewish population resides. The AFP assess these incidents have been highly organised and have involved several offenders with individual roles, and involving methods commonly used by gangs and organised crime. We have termed this crime as a service, which essentially involves outsourcing criminal acts to other criminal groups for payment. From the leftist screen, the arson attempts in Bondi, New South Wales, is where it really started. Between 15 to 20 October 2024, 3 attempts were made by a criminal network to attack Jewish businesses in the Bondi area. 2 of these attempts were allegedly have been mistaken attempts. However, the final attack on the Lewis Continental Kitchen was the intended target. People have been charged for this crime and are before the court, so legally I'm restricted on the things I can say publicly. However, I can say that ASIO, our intelligence service, has since assessed that this attack was directed by Iran, which is a new issue for Australia. In the middle, graffiti attacks vehicle damage in Wallara in New South Wales, a month after the Lewis Continental Kitchen attack. The first of several graffiti and arson attacks occurred on vehicles, houses in Sydney's east, which is where the large number of Sydney's Australian Jewish community live. Following these attacks, several significant attacks occurred in December of 2024, the most significant attack being on the Jewish synagogue that was referenced in the video. We commenced Joint Counter-Terrorism Team Operation Hillfield as a result, which is on right of screen. On 6th of December, at least 3 offenders attended the Adass Israel Synagogue in Victoria, entered and poured accelerant in the building and set it alight. We have alleged that the offenders knew that there were people inside the synagogue at the time. This has and continues to be investigated as a politically motivated crime by the Victorian Joint Counter-Terrorism Team. There is more work to do. We have been working tirelessly. 3 people are already before the court for this attack, charged with offences including acts endangering life. But importantly, ASIO, our intelligence service, has since assessed that this attack was also directed by Iran. So we can see an escalation not only in frequency but in terms of harm directed at the Jewish community. In response to the Adass Israel Synagogue attack, as we saw in the video, the Australian Prime Minister announced Special Operation Avalite as a joint agency in operation with the Australian Federal Police and our intelligence service to thwart high-harm anti-Semitic crimes. Special Operation Avalite uses Commonwealth legislation, so we've got national and state, national legislation to investigate and deliver high-impact disruptions in prosecution of criminal entities who threaten, direct, advocate or urge violence of an anti-Semitic nature towards members of the Australian community and federal parliamentarians. We have focused on prolific repeat offenders and high-value targets or high-impact offences. Another focus of Special Operation Avalite is the engagement with community groups and leaders to identify security concerns. This goes to the equation of what is high impact. I didn't want it just to be impact from our perspective, it had to be from community. So we wanted to make sure the concerns are factored into how we prioritise our operations and incidents and ensure that victim impact was at front of centre and at an early stage. Even though Special Operation Avalite was commenced in December 2024, we went back to 7 October 2023 and reinvestigated all matters which may have involved anti-Semitism. You can see the AFP's reviewed 1,367 reports of crime, with 101 reports still under investigation and 27 of those being high-impact joint operations with the intelligence service. Over the last 9 months, Special Operation Avalite has charged 7 high-value targets with a range of offences, including display prohibited symbols, including display of Nazi symbols, use of carriage service, so the telephone or internet, to harass the public or Commonwealth officials. Australia has legislation that prohibits the public display of Nazi gestures and symbols, as well as symbols used to identify prescribed terrorist organisations, including Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis and a number of more. As you can see on the slide, there's a significant concentration of reports of crime in New South Wales and Victoria on this side of the map. You'll see that 25% of matters are in New South Wales and nearly 28% are in Victoria. Operation Avalite's importance lies not only in the law enforcement reach and response, but our stance on hate-fuelled violence and reinforcing Australia's commitment to protecting the community. In January 2025, a series of further anti-Semitic attacks occurred throughout Sydney in close succession, including further attacks against synagogues, as well as attacks against a prominent Jewish leader, former home, a childcare centre, graffiti attacks near a Jewish school. the escalation continued. Police investigations into these incidents revealed greater sophistication and attack preparation and at execution phases. 8 people have been charged for this series of offences and are before the court. The next instance, on the far right of the slide, escalated the community fear and political concern to new levels. Levels that went viral internationally and even caused some countries to change their travel advice about Australia. On the 19th of January 2025, a member of the public opened an abandoned caravan, and I haven't come across too many people who haven't heard of this job, to be quite honest, in the rural suburb of Dural, New South Wales, and discovered explosives on board the caravan, along with threatening note referencing the Great Synagogue in Sydney and the Sydney Jewish Museum. The Joint Counter-Terrorism team in New South Wales commenced Operation Kissinger as a result. Almost immediately, the Joint Counter-Terrorism team identified the involvement of known organised crime figures and doubted what we found was a genuine terrorist plot, and that's about forward threat, not the crime that we had already discovered. Regardless, we treated this as a genuine threat. After a lengthy and complex investigation, the Joint Counter-Terrorism team determined that the caravan plot was orchestrated by organised criminals trying to manipulate favourable outcomes from authorities for other serious crimes they had committed. It is clear this is anti-Semitic. This is an anti-Semitic plot. However, primary motive was to manipulate the court system by taking advantage of recent anti-Semitic incidents and fear in the community. Again, a real escalation. The investigation revealed that the organiser of the caravan plot was also behind many other anti-Semitic incidents that occurred across Sydney. We assessed that because the caravan plot did not succeed as planned, the wannabe mastermind, and I'll say wannabe, he's not a mastermind, tasked other criminal proxies to carry out crimes as a service, including graffiti and arson attacks for financial benefit. The Australian Federal Police and New South Wales Police, so the state police, what we uncovered was disturbing and an unexpected driver of anti-Semitic attacks in New South Wales. It also made it really difficult to assess genuine terrorist threats from those that are manufactured by organised crime. And of course, now we have to consider the involvement of Iran. Our role in public messaging about this investigation was to disrupt the incentive for the criminals to take up the task, expose the manipulation by the organised crime and protect the community from fear and mistrust. But of course, this is of little and cold comfort to the Jewish community who still felt under threat. But by doing so, we affirmed the messaging to the criminal community that manufactured terrorist threats will be dealt with harshly and you will get caught. We had to break the model. The result, the caravan plot criminal network are either before the court or have faded in the background out of fear. The graph shows the first spike in anti-Semitic crimes after the Lewis Continental Kitchen and then the attack on the Adass Israel Synagogue attack, again both assessed to be directed by Iran. Then we see the spike initiated by the caravan plot and its organiser, including the other anti-Semitic crimes that we have linked. We then see the positive impact of Operation Avalite targeting anti-Semites, as well as the New South Wales Police Task Force also focusing on anti-Semitic crimes, reducing the actual number of incidents. The AFP and the New South Wales Police public messaging on Operation Kissinger, the caravan matter, on the 10th of March significantly led to the disruption of the criminal wannabe mastermind network, as the whole crime of service network. From an Australian law enforcement perspective, when crime as a service crosses over into national security, this can erode democracy, leave the community fearful, and of course create an environment where hostile states can take advantage. To continue this work, I already mentioned the AFP's established national security investigation teams to investigate and prosecute politically motivated violence, which does not meet the threshold of terrorism, plus also the promotion of communal violence and hate crimes. We have seen from our own work that this is an international crime by its very nature. Yesterday, I heard the term used, transnational anti-Semitism, and I've got to say that seems to fit as a term. The AFP has an extensive international network, and we utilise this in all of our investigations, including these, and a presence in over 33 countries, including regionally here in Amman. We are committed to being law enforcement partners of choice. We implore anyone here that observes Australian criminals impacting your security environment to reach out. If there are Australians perpetrating anti-Semitism in your country or Australians online being prolific anti-Semites, we want to know. But of course, this does also extend to all serious crime. I have shown that the state actors and criminal proxies have fuelled anti-Semitism in Australia, in addition to the general rise in environment as a result of 7 October. While I do not think it's over, our police response has had a disruptive effect on the criminal networks. You would have seen that the Iranian ambassador to Australia has been expelled by our government, and we are also reforming our laws to counter state-sponsored terrorism, because there was a gap. And in conclusion, I think there's no better way for me to conclude that a quote from the Australian Prime Minister on the 21st of January 2025, that every act of anti-Semitism is an affront to who we are as Australians. Thank you.